Hey, welcome to section 2. So finally we are done with all the theory regarding what is a neural network, how a neuron functions, and what is PyTorch and all that stuff. So finally we are getting closer to having some hands-on, and trust me, in this section we are going to have that. We'll have a lot of hands-on sessions, and these are basically the content which we are going to cover in this section. So we'll first start, like from the next video onwards, we are going to start having some hands-on sessions with PyTorch tensors. We'll see how you can initialize different tensors, and what different operations you can do on tensors. You'll also see the interoperability between PyTorch and NumPy. So it's like how you can convert PyTorch tensors to NumPy ND arrays and vice versa. So that will also give you the idea that why PyTorch is so much integrated with Python and all that. And we will also see towards the end of the session that how you can use PyTorch tensors in CUDA enabled GPUs. So basically, instead of creating tensors in your CPU, you can create tensors in your GPU. So for those of you who have downloaded PyTorch, the CUDA enabled version of PyTorch, then trust me, this is going to be your section. And last but not least, tensors on GPU enabled devices. So how tensors behave on GPU enabled devices, and what different helper methods you have to select the appropriate GPU, or to check whether you have a CUDA enabled GPU or not, and also how you can write device aware code, right? So what I mean by device aware code is you write the same piece of code, and that code is going to run with based on whether you have a GPU or not. So if you have a GPU, it runs on GPU, and if you don't have a GPU, it runs on CPU. So that kind of all those kind of things we are going to see in this entire section. So again, what is a tensor, right? So a tensor is the fundamental data structure in PyTorch, and this is something I've already explained in the last section. So a tensor is nothing but a data structure. Now this data structure has only there can be multiple shapes, but it is basically a multi-dimensional array. Now the number of dimensions depends on the kind of problem you're solving, the kind of data you are willing to pass from one position to another, but this is basically data shaped into a multi-dimensional array, right? So this is all about tensors. And another thing is whatever operation you are doing in case of PyTorch neural networks, all of those operations should happen in a tensor. So it's not possible for you to pass an ND array or a list or a tuple to a neural network and expect that you will get some output and so on. Even if it's a single value, it must be a tensor. So PyTorch will only work with tensors, nothing else. And this is pretty much how an n-dimensional array looks in PyTorch, and by looking at it you can easily see, right, that it looks like an ND array in NumPy, right? So you have this 3-dimensional array, and you have all these information over here, and this is how this information is structured visually, right? So this is pretty much how the PyTorch ND tensors look like. So and at the end of this section, as I already mentioned, I will also show you how PyTorch tensors can be initialized in GPUs. And there's one thing for you to understand, that the tensors in PyTorch, they have been designed in such a way so that they can use they can make optimal use of the available GPU for computations. So you would know that GPUs are great, right? GPUs have a lot of cores, much more compared to the CPUs that you have in your machines, and which helps them to do this minimal calculations a lot faster compared to CPU. So we will see that how PyTorch tensors can be initialized in GPUs, and once you know about it, then you will later on be able to transform the neural networks that we create in CPU to GPU, right? And once you train a neural network in GPU, then only you will find it out that the neural network, the large neural networks which take say 5 to 6 hours to train on CPU, they will be trained in 5 to 10 minutes in a GPU. So these are things that you will see once you learn how to use tensors on GPU and so on. So that is pretty much it about what we are going to cover in this section. So let's not waste any more time, and from the next video onwards, let's have some hands-on session with PyTorch so that both of us can have some fun, right? So that's it, and I will see you in the next one.